There is something about a hug that goes far beyond physical contact. It's not just arms around someone. It's energy, it's emotion, it's presence. And when that emotion is missing, when the hug is given without something real behind it, the difference is felt immediately. Not always consciously, not always something he can explain, but deeply enough that it changes the meaning of the moment. Because a hug without genuine emotion feels empty. It may look the same from the outside, the same movement, the same closeness, the same gesture, but what's missing is what actually matters, the intention behind it. And men, even if they don't always express it, can feel that difference. They can sense when something is real and when something is simply being done out of habit, expectation, or routine. When a hug is forced, it carries a kind of disconnect. It feels mechanical, like something that's being done because it's expected rather than because it's felt. And that subtle difference creates distance, even in a moment that's meant to bring closeness. Because connection doesn't come from the action. It comes from the feeling behind it. If your mind is somewhere else, if your emotions aren't present, if you're just going through the motion without truly wanting to be in that moment, it shows. Not through words, not through obvious signals, but through energy. And that energy is what he responds to, whether he realizes it or not. He may not say anything. He may not react outwardly. But internally, something feels off. The moment doesn't land the same way. It doesn't create warmth. It doesn't create comfort. It just passes, and over time, those moments matter. Because when affection becomes empty, it loses its impact. It becomes something that exists physically, but not emotionally. And without emotion, even the most intimate gestures can feel distant. This is why intention is everything. A genuine hug doesn't need to be long or dramatic. It doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs to be real. When you actually feel the moment, when you're present, when your energy is aligned with the action, it creates something different. Something that can't be faked or replaced. He feels it in the way you hold him, in the way you pause, in the way there is no rush to pull away. There's a sense of presence, of being fully there, even if it's just for a few seconds. And that presence is what creates connection, because it tells him something without words. It tells him that you're not just there physically, you're there emotionally, that the moment matters, that the connection is real, that the gesture isn't empty. And that's what makes it powerful, because in a world where so many interactions are rushed, distracted, or surface level, something as simple as a genuine hug can stand out. It can create comfort, trust, and a sense of closeness that goes beyond anything spoken, but only when it's real. And deep down, he knows the difference, because a hug without emotion is just contact, but a hug with genuine feeling is connection. And when that hug comes from the wrong place, not from connection, but from a need to receive something, it changes everything about how it feels. Because there is a subtle but powerful difference between giving a hug to share warmth and giving a hug to get reassurance. When a hug is used to seek validation, the energy shifts. It may not be obvious on the surface. The gesture looks the same. The closeness is still there. The moment still happens. But underneath it, there is a quiet expectation, a need for something in return, comfort, attention, confirmation that everything is okay. And that need, even if it's unspoken, is felt because energy doesn't hide. When you hug someone while internally asking, "Do you still care about me, or do I still matter?" it changes the nature of the moment. The hug is no longer just about connection. It becomes about filling a gap, easing a doubt, calming an uncertainty. And while that may feel natural in certain moments, when it becomes a pattern, it weakens the emotional impact. Because now, the gesture carries pressure. Instead of being something that feels free and genuine, it starts to feel like something that has a purpose beyond itself. Something that is trying to confirm something rather than simply express something. And that difference can create distance even in closeness. He may not say it out loud. He may not even fully recognize it. But he feels when a moment is about sharing versus when it's about seeking. And when a hug feels like it's asking for reassurance, It subtly places him in a position where he has to respond rather than just feel. It takes away the natural flow of the moment and replaces it with a sense of expectation. This is why balance matters. Because connection grows when both people bring something into the moment, not when one person is trying to take something from it. A hug that comes from fullness, from calmness, from genuine presence feels different. It doesn't ask, it doesn't need, it simply gives. And that giving creates a stronger emotional impact than seeking ever could. When you hug him from a place of security, when your energy is grounded and not dependent on his reaction, it creates ease. There's no pressure, no silent question attached to the moment. It feels natural, light, and real. And that's what stays with him, because it allows him to experience the connection without feeling responsible for maintaining it. It gives him space to feel rather than react. And in that space, the moment becomes more meaningful. This doesn't mean you never need comfort or reassurance. It means understanding that not every gesture should carry that weight. Because when it does, it slowly changes how those gestures are experienced. And over time, the difference becomes clear. A hug given from need can feel heavy, but a hug given from genuine connection feels effortless. And deep down, he feels it. Because the moment you stop seeking validation through your touch becomes something he truly feels. And even when the emotion is real and the intention is pure, there's something else that can quietly weaken the moment, rushing it. Because a hug is not just about contact, it's about presence. And when that presence is missing, even for a few seconds, the meaning begins to fade. A rushed hug feels like an obligation. It's quick, distracted, almost automatic. The kind of hug that happens while your mind is already moving to the next thing, the next thought, the next moment. There's no pause, no stillness, no sense that you're actually there. And that's what makes it feel incomplete. Because connection requires time, even if it's only a few seconds. When you rush a hug, you remove the depth from it. You turn something that could create closeness into something that simply checks a box. And while it may seem small, that difference is felt, not always consciously, but enough to change how the moment lands. He feels the lack of presence, not because the hug didn't happen, but because it didn't mean anything beyond the action itself. There was no energy behind it, no intention, no moment of stillness where connection could actually exist. It came and went so quickly that it left nothing behind, and that's what matters. The feeling that stays after the moment is gone, because when a hug is given with presence, it creates something different. There's a pause, a brief moment where everything else fades, where there's no rush to move away, no distraction pulling your attention elsewhere, even if it only lasts a few seconds longer. That stillness creates depth. It tells him something without words. It tells him that you're there, not just physically, but mentally. That you're not rushing through the moment, not treating it as something small or unimportant. That for that brief time, your attention is fully there. And that changes how it feels, because presence cannot be faked. It shows in the way you hold on just a little longer, in the way your energy settles into the moment instead of passing through it. It creates warmth, comfort, and a sense of real connection that lingers even after the hug ends. Most people underestimate this. They think it's just a quick gesture, something simple, something that doesn't require much thought. But it's often the simplest moments that carry the most weight when they are done with intention. A rushed hug may be forgotten instantly, but a present one stays. Not because it was longer, not because it was dramatic, but because it felt real. It created a pause in time, even if only briefly, where connection was actually experienced instead of just performed. And over time, those moments build. They shape how he feels around you, how he experiences your presence, how he remembers even the smallest interactions. Because when something feels intentional, it becomes meaningful. And deep down, he knows the difference. Because a rushed hug passes quickly, but a present one stays with him long after it ends. And even when the timing is right and the gesture isn't rushed, there is something deeper that can quietly disconnect the moment. Being physically close, but emotionally distant. Because a hug is not just about bodies meeting, it's about energy aligning. And when your body is there but your mind is somewhere else, that disconnect is felt in ways that words can't explain. You can be right in front of him, arms around him, and still feel far away. It happens when your thoughts are elsewhere, when your emotions are closed off, when you're holding back something internally. Maybe you're distracted. Maybe you're overthinking. Maybe you're protecting yourself. But whatever the reason, the moment loses its depth. Because true connection requires presence on more than one level. When your mind isn't in the moment, your energy reflects it. There's a subtle distance in the way you hold him, a lack of warmth, a sense that something is missing even though everything looks the same on the outside. And that's what he feels. Not clearly, not logically, but emotionally. He may not be able to explain why the hug felt different, why it didn't land in the same way, why it didn't create that sense of closeness. But internally, he notices the absence of something real. Because when emotion is not present, the moment becomes hollow. And over time, those hollow moments add up. Because physical closeness without emotional connection doesn't build anything. It creates confusion. It sends mixed signals. It says, I'm here with your body, but I'm not fully here with your energy. And that contradiction is what weakens the impact of something that should feel natural and meaningful. This is why emotional presence matters. When you're fully there, when your thoughts slow down, when your attention settles, when your energy is aligned with the moment, it changes everything. The hug becomes more than just a gesture. It becomes a shared experience, something that feels real and grounded. He feels the difference immediately. There's warmth, there's calmness, there's a sense of connection that doesn't need to be explained. It's not about holding tighter or longer. It's about being there completely, even if only for a few seconds. That kind of presence creates something that can't be imitated, because it's honest. You're not pretending, not performing, not going through the motion. You're simply there fully without distraction or distance. And that honesty is what creates trust, comfort, and a deeper emotional bond. Most people overlook this. They focus on the action itself, not realizing that the feeling behind it is what truly matters. But when your body and your emotions are aligned, even the simplest gesture becomes powerful. And when they're not, even the closest moments can feel distant. And deep down, he knows the difference, because being physically close means nothing if your heart isn't there with it. And even when your presence is real and your intention is genuine, there is another subtle way the moment can lose its meaning. When physical affection is given too often, too easily, without emotional balance behind it. Because just like anything else, when something is constant and predictable, it slowly begins to lose its impact. Too much, too often, can make something special feel ordinary. At first, it may seem like more affection creates more connection. More hugs, more closeness, more physical expression. It feels like you're giving more, showing more, being more open. But when that affection isn't supported by emotional depth, when it becomes routine rather than intentional, it starts to feel automatic. And what becomes automatic loses its value. He may still accept it, still respond to it, but the emotional effect begins to fade. Not because he doesn't care, but because there's no contrast anymore. There's no moment where the gesture stands out. No space where it feels earned or meaningful. It's just always there. And when something is always there, it becomes expected. This is where balance becomes important, because physical affection should reflect connection, not replace it. It should come from emotion, not be used as a constant default. When hugs are given with intention, at the right moments with real presence behind them, they carry weight. They create warmth, closeness, and a feeling that stays. But when they are overgiven without that same depth, they begin to feel empty. Not because the action changes, but because the meaning behind it weakens. He may not say it, but he feels the difference. A hug that comes after a meaningful moment, after real connection, after emotional presence, it feels different. It lands deeper. It creates something that lingers. But a hug that is given constantly, without variation, without thought, becomes part of the background. And background moments are easily forgotten. This doesn't mean you should hold back affection or become distant. It means understanding that the value of something is often tied to how it is given. When there is balance, when physical affection is supported by emotional connection, when it comes naturally instead of constantly, it becomes more meaningful. It stands out. He begins to associate those moments with something real, something intentional, something that reflects how you feel, rather than something that simply happens out of habit. And that makes him appreciate it more, notice it more, feel it more, because it's no longer just a routine, it's a moment. And moments are what create lasting impressions. When affection is balanced, it doesn't lose its power. It becomes something he looks forward to, something that feels genuine every time it happens. It doesn't overwhelm, it doesn't fade, it stays consistent in its meaning. And deep down, he realizes this. Your touch isn't something that's always given, it's something that always means something. And when everything else is in place, the presence, the intention, the balance, there is one final element that defines the entire experience. Something that can't be seen but is always felt. It's the energy you bring into the moment, because a hug is not just physical and it's not just emotional. It's energetic. It carries your mood, your mindset, your inner state. Everything you feel internally, even the things you don't say, moves through that moment. And that energy is what determines whether the hug creates closeness or distance. You can do everything right on the surface, but if your energy is tense, distracted, closed off, or uncertain, it changes how the moment feels. He senses it. Not in a way he can always explain, but in a way he can feel. There's a difference between being held by someone who is calm, warm, and present, and being held by someone who is anxious, distant, or emotionally unsettled. The action is the same, but the experience is completely different. Because energy speaks louder than movement. When your energy is soft, grounded, and genuine, it creates a sense of comfort. It allows him to relax into the moment, to feel at ease, to experience the connection without resistance. There's no tension, no confusion. Just a quiet sense of closeness that feels natural. But when your energy is off, even slightly, it disrupts that. If you're overthinking, if you're holding on to stress, if you're unsure of how you feel, it comes through. Not through words, not through obvious signals, but through the subtle way your body responds, the way your presence feels. And that's what he reacts to, because connection is not built on what is seen, it's built on what is felt. This is why being aware of your internal state matters more than anything external. You don't need to change the gesture. You don't need to make it bigger or more noticeable. You simply need to be aligned within yourself. When you approach the moment with calmness, with clarity, with genuine warmth, it transforms everything. The hug becomes more than just contact. It becomes a feeling. Something that lingers. Something that creates a sense of closeness without needing to be explained. And that's what makes it unforgettable, because people don't remember the exact way something happened. They remember how it felt. And when your energy is right, when it's real and grounded, that feeling stays. It becomes something he associates with you. A sense of comfort, a sense of ease, a sense of something that feels different from everything else. And that difference is what creates impact. Because anyone can give a hug, but not everyone can make it feel like something. And deep down, he knows this. It's not the hug itself that stays with him. It's the energy you brought into it that he can't forget.